your content really has to be either educational or entertaining, or some sort of combination of both of them to really capture attention. I mean, if you just think about your own mindset when you're scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or whatever your, platform of choice is, I mean, there's so much stuff that you just scroll right by. It really has to be something, you have to have that connection. So when that one, your favorite auto mechanic shows up because you like learning from this person, then you're going to stop and listen to what he has to say. But it takes that connection to like slow people down, because you can get flooded with so much information that it's hard to break through. But once you do have a connection, then at least you have a chance of slowing that person down to watching your content, and then hopefully converting them in somehow, some shape or form to, at the very least a regular viewer, and then ideally into a customer of some sort.
But any content creator in 2024 looking to get into this space into 2025, I think you have to be a great communicator, you have to be a great storyteller, you have to have a basic understanding of video, as well as other art and design principles such as lighting, composition, framing, pacing. But what better than to just hop on your Instagram feed and just see what other companies are doing and what's working well for them, right? I think you can very quickly see if you go to a new Instagram page you've never been to before, you can tell, are the reels very polished? Is it just an individual turning on their front-facing camera talking and they have 2.7 million views on average on each reel? Study the space, understand what works, and then come at it with your own unique lens as a creative, as someone who wants to be creative with regard to video content creation.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Duce Raymond Podcast. Today we have someone that's really special because it's the first person in our organization at the SBR Events Group that's going to do a podcast with us. And let me start by saying that we're very lucky to have this person on our team. And if anybody has been in the hiring situation in the hospitality industry, you'll know what I'm talking about, because when you put an ad out for chefs or cooks or servers, usually it's a lot of crickets. Well, we posted an ad for content creator about 3.5 years ago, and we got flooded with interest, over 100 resumes to go through, and somehow, by the luck of the draw, we picked Matt Capone to be our very first content creator. So, Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Duce. Yeah, I'm usually on the other end of this as a producer, so it's a little bit different being a guest, but I'm excited to have this discussion with you.
Well, a little bit of background just for the listeners. We have really dove into the world of digital and social media over the last 3.5 years. Matt and I have worked together side by side with this whole process, and it's been really interesting. We've learned a lot over the last few years, and like I said, Matt and I have worked together on this, so it's, he's just as responsible as the success as I am, because we've really done it together. So Matt, why don't you talk a little bit about your evolution in your career, maybe even a little before you came to SBR Events Group. What were you up to?
Yeah, so my background's actually in music. I'm a classically trained musician. I went to a 4-year college, Illinois Wesleyan University, go Titans. So that's where I got a really solid liberal arts education, as well as a degree in classical music. After my studies there, I was accepted into a graduate program in Valencia, Spain, through Berklee College of Music, which is where I furthered my studies in still sort of general music, but more of a focus on electronic music production. So I lived in Spain for a year, got to work with a lot of incredible people, worked alongside a lot of great colleagues as well. And, along with that musical path, really I sort of fell into sort of this video, social media world. I've been producing short videos for various social media platforms for 10 years now. It's my 10-year anniversary, which is crazy.
Wow.
And so really kind of these two worlds just kind of collided and ran in parallel with each other. So, I love music, and I love arts, and I love design, and I love video. And I'm really fortunate that these paths kind of came together and put me on a trajectory to kind of fall into that marketing world where I'm able to take some of my technical skills from music, like rhythm and pacing and presenting and performing, and combine it with how to run a successful marketing campaign and a successful marketing strategy through video content creation, through social media, through email marketing. So it's been really incredible 10 years now of producing video, and I'm really fortunate just kind of how everything lined up with where my background is and sort of the path that I've created for myself.
Oh, it's really, really interesting for sure. What do you feel has been some of the hurdles as being part of our team here as you've grown? So you started as a content creator. We were just starting to produce content together. And then as you've grown, kind of outline the path for that, outline your path of growth in the business that we've worked on together.
Sure, yeah. So, I think, really what it comes down to as a content creator is you're gaining experience, right? You're working with different brands, you're working with different tools. Technology is also always changing, as we know now more than ever, with the blow up of AI and NFTs and technology is just always changing. So I like to think sort of my content creation is really sort of just building that experience. Therefore, those hard skills, those technical skills that sort of come with being in this space of learning what makes a good video, learning a new editing software that makes your workflow a lot easier. I'd say from all of that experience, sort of transitioning into my managerial role then, I'd like to think I lean a little bit more on my soft skills, so sort of things you can't really teach. I really, again, owe my college education, my master's degree, as a large part as to why I'm able to sort of utilize those softer skills in what I think is a quite effective way. So it's cool to see that path that I've gone down where, in that more content creation space, it was much more on the sort of technical hard skills. Those are still with me as it's in my past. I still hold them and understand them. And so now I've kind of transitioned into more of those softer skills with leading a team, with, a lot of communication with outside partners and collaborators, and really just understanding the bigger picture, so to speak, to really, keep in this case, Sweet Baby Ray's Catering on the path that it's going.
Why don't you talk about something that we talk about all the time, some of the challenges with our specific company and how the different brands can be challenging to kind of separate, and what has been our strategy kind of moving forward to kind of remedy some of that?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple things. First, and it does not sound any more corporate-y, but bandwidth has always been an issue for us. Just we have so many great ideas, and we know kind of what the social media landscape looks like now, and it's almost like there's a very large basket filled of ideas, but maybe the actual bandwidth and the resources and the people is maybe in a little smaller jar or something.
Not to cut you off, but I would say that just the 3 shows that we're doing on top of all the other little marketing pieces that we do with Constant Contact and everything is more, we're biting off more than we could chew on a regular basis, and then there's still more ideas on top of that.
Right. And there's some beauty in that too, because then I'd rather have that than the inverse, which would be not enough ideas and no direction and no motivation and no Northern Star. So while it is a problem, I do see it as a good problem to have, and from there you can kind of work backwards, sort of subtractive rather than adding. So here we are up here with what we think can work, but now what do we need to do to actually have it come to fruition and actually be able to execute on it? So I'd say bandwidth would be one challenge. The second challenge, which you and I talk about on a regular basis, is just regarding sort of I like to say, multifaceted nature of our company and the complexities that come with it, and the labeling and terminology that comes with the company. I think, and you've said it before too, but we really love using that Sweet Baby Ray's name as it's a household name, but I think that's also what can cause some communication issues in how we how we present our brand to people, because now they're saying, "Oh, you're Sweet Baby Ray's. I buy your barbecue sauce at the store all the time." And then it takes us to better communicate. Well, yes, that is in our history. Our managing partner Duce Raymond, his father and uncle started the business, but we are no longer affiliated. But we're still kind of affiliated. But we're the catering and restaurant now. So as you can see, it's this sort of explanation with the company. It's a good problem to have because we do have that instant name recognition. But as we see, it is also a challenge for us to properly communicate that to our ever-growing audience online.
It is. It's a tricky situation, but it's hard to get away from the vast recognition you get from Sweet Baby Ray's. Everybody knows what Sweet Baby Ray's is because it's such a large barbecue sauce brand, and we use that to our advantage. But like you said, it also kind of muddies the waters a little bit to what exactly we're trying to do. I would be, not having to do anything if I had a nickel for every time I heard, "Oh, Sweet Baby Ray's, I didn't even know you had a catering business. I didn't even know you had a restaurant." It's like, and we've been hard at it for the last 3.5 years of trying to raise recognition and trying to get the awareness out there that we do have a physical location, we do catering, and it has been challenging because of the branding. So pivot that we're looking to make in 2025 is more focused on Duce Raymond personal brand, as well as shifting our focus from Sweet Baby Ray's catering organic reach to more of a paid program. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so first I want to just backtrack a little bit. I do see every business is going to have its unique challenges. I think in this case, this is our unique challenge. And if it were that easy, everybody would start a $1 million business tomorrow. But so, it's much more complex than that. And that just happens to be our problem that our team is continually looking into to figure out what will work best for our communication to our audience. So then to answer your second question, which let me just state it again just to make sure I'm answering correctly, is sort of where we're moving into 2025 regarding kind of that pivot to more of the personal brand.
And then how we're looking at Sweet Baby Ray's catering versus where we've looked at it in the past, and our mentality shift there and why.
Yeah, so I think I can probably use the example of what we've said before of this idea of, as the Sweet Baby Ray's entity, we kind of created this beast that we, didn't really anticipate or totally understand until now that we're here and are able to reflect and kind of see where things are going. We are very fortunate to have built a following. I think I checked this morning, if we include your brand, I think we're over 700,000 followers across all the platforms.
That's crazy. That actually was part of my intro that I missed. But what if you can recall, where did we start at some of those, and where are we at now? Just to not to toot our own horn, but just to show people what's possible out there with the dedication and the consistency that we've been able to put into the marketing side of things.
100%. Yeah. So I believe our Instagram was 1,800 people, I want to say, when we started back in 2021. TikTok was 0. We didn't have a TikTok. Facebook was had a little bit more than the other platforms, maybe like 10 or 20, 25,000 followers, if I'm not mistaken. And then YouTube, I think, was also around 5,000 or so. So probably altogether 25, 30, 35,000 followers. We've since then, this was back in 2021, we have since then grew all the platforms to over 700,000 in total. And so
it's amazing
to kind of go off of what you were saying there. Yeah, it really speaks to where the landscape is, and if you understand the landscape and how to work with that attention, then you'll start flying in these numbers that are just absolutely bonkers on a weekly basis. And we understood what we needed to do. We trialed and errored a lot to kind of get where we are now. So the power of social media is crazy, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more later on. But yeah, so to backtrack to the initial question, we've really seen that because of this multifaceted nature of Sweet Baby Ray's catering, and because of sort of this beast we created that's more so on an international level, the algorithm is not biased to a specific location, at least organic algorithm is not. So what we're slowly starting to find is our Sweet Baby Ray's catering strategy, while it's been a beautiful strategy, we're starting to see a potential shift in, you know what, let's actually push the organic more to a personal branding approach, which would be more so under the Duce Raymond, because then that's not limiting us to a specific geographical location. The Duce Raymond personal organic strategy is able to be a worldwide brand through brand deals that don't require you to meet in person for a production. It means shipping a Duce's Wild sauce or rub anywhere in the world. It means offering an online course down the road, offering merch. All these things are not restricted to a specific geographical location, which on the other side of the coin, then Sweet Baby Ray's catering is. If a barbecue connoisseur or amateur backyard barbecuer from Texas sees a post by Sweet Baby Ray's catering, well, they're in Texas. We're not yet shipping catering to, you know, halfway across the country. So what we're slowly finding is, while this strategy was beautiful and it's worked and it's opened up so many doors for us, we're really wanting to fine tune now and get more dialed in going into 2025 regarding sort of that beast that we've created under Sweet Baby Ray's catering. How can we leverage that and pivot that slightly to be more of a evergreen, more personal first approach, while still maintaining the Sweet Baby Ray's catering brand that's a little bit more local.
And with the local approach to Sweet Baby Ray's catering, we are going to start using a more paid approach, meaning paid search, maybe paid social, to try to drive to a more specific audience. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. And we're also really looking to continue to foster those more local relationships. So our venues, the venue managers, the vendors who work in the wedding industry, sort of within this geographical location near Chicagoland, we're really wanting to just think much more locally than, again, sort of this beast we created that is, at the end of the day, more of an international brand almost, with regard to utilizing social media as the primary form to communicate our branding.
And then, is in reference to the personal brand, you know, something that I think that is really smart about it is in the way I could talk about Sweet Baby Ray's catering, I could talk about Duce's Wild, we could post videos about True Cuisine, which we haven't spoke about yet, but that's our wedding brand that you're also responsible for the marketing for. And, you know, whatever else is down the road, new restaurants, new courses, new videos, whatever the case may be. But where if you're just posting under Sweet Baby Ray's, it does the dots don't connect if you're talking about a wedding brand or about, you know, a course or a Duce's Wild product. Definitely sometimes it's very confusing when you're posting under the Sweet Baby Ray's brand. So I feel like very confident that this will be a positive shift. And like I said, this is, you know, we've been slowly shifting this way already, but it's going to be kind of full force in 2025.
Right, and we've looked at that as sort of the, you know, we're pivoting that brand to be the nucleus. People buy from people, people trust people. You know, I think a lot of companies fall into this idea of, I don't want to say hiding behind sort of this corporate look and feel, but not having that designated representative or spokesperson or just personality who is willing to sort of break that wall between corporation and consumer. I think that's where a personal brand really comes in handy, is that you are able to build trust person to person rather than setting a $20,000 budget for a 30-second commercial and you know, hoping that people can connect at a personal level with your specific brand or company.
Can you talk about, kind of at a high level, what has been our strategy so far and what has led us down to the success that we've seen in the growth of the catering brand?
Short form video, and short form video. That has been where the attention is for the last several years. And I think a lot of businesses or even individuals sort of fall into the trap of, you know, selling themselves. Look at all these great things we've done. Look at these techniques or skills that I've done or have. Look at these awards that I've won. I wanted to bring up this example at Duce. I've actually never brought this up to you either, but I drive past a mechanic pretty regularly. And this kind of gets into a little bit of salesy, but I think you'll get where I'm going here. So I drive past this mechanic, and the sign outside in really big letters, and I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but I'm pretty close. It says, "Oil change, stay in your car." So now all of a sudden, rather than saying we're the best mechanic in Chicagoland, or look at us, we can change oil better than all the other mechanics in the area, they're not pitching you the features, they're pitching you the benefits, which is of course like classic sales 101. Yeah. So now when I'm looking at that sign, oh, stay in your car, like they're telling me how it's going to save me time and save me energy, or I don't have to think about how many accolades or awards has this company won. No, you're just saying stay in your car. Sounds good to me. I get to stay in my car. You're going to take care of my oil change and I'll be on my way, and I get time back, versus I'm going to look at all these different mechanics in Chicagoland and say, oh, well, this one won this award, and this one says that this boss was, did this fancy schmancy sort of event that gives them more credibility. So I think something similar can be said to pushing short form video content creation. We've very much approached our videos in a bring value sort of ethos. We're not trying to pitch to you we're the best barbecue catering company in Chicago or the nation. We're not trying to have Duce Raymond toot his own horn. Look at all these awards I've won. You should buy from me because I say so, and because we're so polished and put together beautiful events. You need to benefit the consumer. You need to bring value to the consumer. And something I challenge our content creators with is I always pose the question, why should they care? Right? Why should the consumer care about what we have to say? And I think it is a little bit of a harsh reality when you think, in order to get someone to trust you, who, granted, they're not in your inner circle. I think your friends and family, they're always, super impressed with your accomplishments and what you've done for yourself. But in order to convince that stranger to really buy into what you are talking about or what your brand is, I think you do need to give a little. So, what we have done there is sort of a short form bring value approach. So, we can obviously get into this a little bit later, but we do different shows. We do a lot of barbecue education. Duce is also an incredible personality on camera, which helps a lot. But, by giving value, by selling the benefits, not the features, by building that trust, not through here's why you should buy from us, but rather let me teach you something cool, or let me inspire you, or let me entertain you. That, I think, really speaks to why we've seen the success that we have seen with short form video.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. Your content really has to be either educational or entertaining, or some sort of combination of both of them to really capture attention. I mean, if you just think about your own mindset when you're scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or whatever your, platform of choice is, I mean, there's so much stuff that you just scroll right by. It really has to be something, you have to have that connection. So when that one, your favorite auto mechanic shows up because you like learning from this person, then you're going to stop and listen to what he has to say. But it takes that connection to like slow people down, because you can get flooded with so much information that it's hard to break through. But once you do have a connection, then at least you have a chance of slowing that person down to watching your content, and then hopefully converting them in somehow, some shape or form to, at the very least, a regular viewer, and then ideally into a customer of some sort. We have a few different things we sell right now with catering, the restaurant, and the Duce's Wild products. And just recently, 3 years into it, we've seen more and more conversions on the Duce's Wild side. So I think that we're just on the tip of the iceberg with really understanding how to place, better ads, and continue. Like, we've got the organic reach dialed in, and now that there's so much, you can dive deep into the rabbit hole of paid promoting online. So that's something I'm looking forward to learning more. So if someone is starting to do their own content, but they're looking at expanding, things are going good for them, and they're looking to hire a content creator, what are some of the things that you think make a good content creator, and what can someone expect to start working as they start growing online?
That's a really good question. So I think a good content creator will obviously need to understand the current landscape that we're in. I attribute a lot of sort of where my career went to the fact that so much is in social media right now. I think, I very much could have gone down a path that was much more focused on more technical, pieces of equipment or understanding new lighting techniques. And it just kind of blows my mind that while there's always going to be a time and a place for that, and I have mad respect for the individuals who really know what they're doing there, I certainly see my path as a content creator, now marketing manager, has really stemmed from understanding that you actually don't need all of the fancy schmancy production. If you are a good communicator and you are a good storyteller and you're able to have what you produce resonate with people, that's already lining you up for massive success as a content creator. I think there's always going to be little nuances that sometimes can be taught, other times can't, regarding pacing, regarding rhythm, regarding what to actually include, regarding composition of your frames. How does this shot look versus how does that shot look? There's those little nuances that I think just come with experience. But any content creator in 2024 looking to get into this space into 2025, I think you have to be a great communicator, you have to be a great storyteller, you have to have a basic understanding of video, as well as other art and design principles such as lighting, composition, framing, pacing. But what better than to just hop on your Instagram feed and just see what other companies are doing and what's working well for them, right? I think you can very quickly see if you go to a new Instagram page you've never been to before, you can tell, are the reels very polished? Is it just an individual turning on their front-facing camera talking and they have 2.7 million views on average on each reel? Study the space, understand what works, and then come at it with your own unique lens as a creative, as someone who wants to be creative with regard to video content creation.
How important is figuring out your niche?
I do think now more than ever, it's way more important, especially with how saturated social media is. I think there was this really big influx maybe 10 years ago of sort of this lifestyle blogger, lifestyle YouTuber where you kind of can just take people along your day, going to a coffee shop in the morning, going to get a quick workout in, trying a new vegan restaurant for dinner, whatever it may be. I think that specific niche but kind of broad as well, lifestyle was huge 10 years ago, but because of the nature of social media is only growing, only more users are joining the platforms, every single day, what is it, like every single minute, like 10,000 hours are uploaded to YouTube or something crazy like that. So all to say that it's that much harder to break through if you're just kind of going more broad. Right, so then to answer your question, I think niche is really important now more than ever regarding being able to build a community that does trust you and does believe and tap into what you're saying. I think a lot of that can be achieved through going at a specific angle, sort of having your unique experience within this specific subject matter to propel yourself forward and start building that community that you're looking to build.
Back to what I was talking about before with like hiring a content creator, or if you're going to start on your own journey, how important are, and you alluded to it a little bit, but the fancy equipment, can you get most of it done, especially with a new iPhone? Or, I mean, we've kind of grown as we started working more with our videographer, Bianca, then she started adding some more equipment, and now we have the mics, we have different lighting, she uses different cameras. But how much of that do you need, especially if you're just getting started? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it's very situational. I think it's also, there's a time and place for everything. I would argue on like a sort of social media first approach, any end of the spectrum is sufficient. If you can take this little device and put together something that's very compelling in 15 to 30 seconds and entertaining or inspiring or educational, you just need some good lighting and a phone. But there's always going to be a time and place for understanding fancier equipment, for conveying a certain message that does sort of need that higher level of technical ability through nicer cameras, nicer lighting, nicer just overall equipment and software for post-production. So while I do see a time and place for either approach, I think it really comes down to it's a situational basis and depends on where you want to be. If it's social media first, yeah, turn on your front-facing camera, talk with conviction, talk with your passion and your joy, and you might have 1 million followers by next year. But there's always going to be space for fancy equipment and the deliverable you're looking to produce using that fancy equipment.
And a lot of what I feel like, a lot of it comes down to, no matter what equipment you're using, is the editing. I mean, we capture so much content for each video shoot, but it has to get compiled down. Probably one video shoot, if you average it out, probably takes an hour and 15 minutes to shoot the whole thing. It gets compressed to 30 to 60 seconds on the most of our videos. And, I mean, the editing really has a lot to do with how the final product's going to come out. You know, I can make the food look amazing and nail the cook and everything, but if the editing's not right, it's, either way. Or I could screw up the cook and you could still make it look good with the editing, so you can go both ways with it.
Yeah, and I think the editing process, or the post-production process, if you will, that I do really think is what separates sort of the pros from the amateurs, right? So this idea of, if you are producing for social media, you need to grab that person's attention within, it used to be 3 seconds, I'd almost argue now within the first second and a half. Mm-hmm. That's just because the landscape continues to get more and more focused on social first, and consumers and viewers and users of these platforms are spending hours, and if you're not grabbing their attention within the first second and a half, I'm going to say nowadays, then they're going to swipe right past you, and all that hard work, all that technical experience, that understanding of lighting and production, well, it goes out the window because you didn't grab that person in the first second and a half. So, that's where it really comes to those nuances that I mentioned earlier of these little tricks and different ways of going about an edit that really allow it to shine and really does separate the pros from the amateurs.
What's been a couple, one or two highlights working with us and, been exciting to see as we've been down this, growing marketing brand journey together?
Question. How much time do I have? No.
That wasn't on the list.
I'd say I'm ultimately just so grateful that, I work for a company and work within a space that allows me the capacity to be so creative and let those juices flow, and to be in a collaborative environment working with you and other members of the team. Mm-hmm. I've worked for other companies in the past where you maybe wouldn't have as much of that liberty or that say in certain things. So, just the fact that it sort of really feels like I'm building something with the team is very rewarding for me, and is also, helpful for myself and my career as I grow with this company is, just being able to be creative and think through new ideas and acknowledge what technology is doing and where it's evolving to and where it's innovating is really fun to kind of be at the forefront of that with regard to working for this company.
Excellent. Let's talk a little bit about something that you work on your own with, and you've had a couple pages grow over the years. And I remember in the early days when you first started, like some of the stuff you were working on was getting like way more views than we were working on. And I was like, man, we got to do that. But right now, your main focus outside of Sweet Baby Ray's in your I don't know what to call it, hobby, outside focus. Personal projects, there you go, is Contour Cars on Instagram. Can you explain, what is, I know you're super passionate about the automotive space. That's something that we've talked about in the past with F1, and you actually went to go see an F1 race last year. And so that's, I'm a huge car guy. I don't know a lot about the mechanic sides of it, but I like the aesthetics. I like just nice cars in general. So I appreciate that interest. So talk to the audience a little bit about your page on Instagram and kind of how you go about that.
Yeah, so I feel like I really started the page. First and foremost, I'm, like you said, I've been a car lover all my life. And but I'm also very passionate about art and design, and I feel like this new brand, personal brand I've created, really allows me to talk about both. It's a very beautiful intersection of what I love most, which is automotive and art and design. And I've really sort of coupled that with, again, going back to that experience, just the constant working for brands, doing personal projects, all the experience through SBR. That's really taught me a thing or two on what works and what doesn't. So I think it's a platform really at the end of the day for me to just have fun and enjoy my hobby outside of work. I think having hobbies is so important, and I think that really keeps your head screwed on for your actual work, just to so you're not so flooded and overwhelmed with new ideas for your professional work. I think having that hobby really helps with sort of breaking things up and making sure you're taking care of yourself and having fun as well. And I'll also say that the newest brand is also, I've worked on various personal projects and professional projects in the past where I will openly admit I've taken too seriously almost. Kind of put way too much pressure on myself. Everything has to be so perfect. It needs to be technically this excellent, craft that I've put together. And after being exposed to the landscape for so long and understanding what people like versus dislike, and then sort of just tying in my hobby and passion outside of work. Again, this brand is really just for me to have fun and enjoy and connect with people, and really just talk about what I love with other people, and utilize the experience that I've gained over the last decade to my advantage to be able to build something that's meaningful.
Well, it's definitely educational. I mean, you have some deep knowledge on the space, and if you want to know more about Contour Cars, you can follow him on Instagram.
Thanks for the plug, Duce.
There you go. Takeaways from other influencers in the space. This is something we've talked about, and we, even in our interview, we connected over Gary Vaynerchuk and some of his content, and we've talked over the years about guys like Alex Hormozi. And what's some of the things that when you listen to those guys that really hit home, that you see that the dots really connect, that we've put into place and seen results with?
Yeah, and I'll start off by saying I knew that was the start of a beautiful professional relationship when we bonded over that, after talking about Gary Vee in the interview. But no, I think listening to a lot of the influencers, and again, just understanding the space, I think what it really comes down to is we can't have this bias towards operating in a certain way. I've brought this up to you before, but there's a book I read a couple years ago explaining this idea of a pet idea, sort of this idea that you think is going to work, but really it's an idea that you have a bias to. You're so excited about it. Well, if I like it, then everybody else is going to like it, and clearly this is the best way to go about it. We can't have that. We need an unbiased approach, and we need to understand where the attention is. And influencers like Gary Vee or Alex Hormozi and any entrepreneurial or motivational type creator in the space will preach to you that you need to be giving value to people. That's how you build business. That's how you build your brand. That's how you land brand partnerships and brand collaborations and brand deals as a creator or as an influencer. So really, I think to say at a high level, listening to these larger influencers is teaching you to not be biased, to not create something just because you like it or I mean, you should talk about your passions, but it's in a context that ultimately helps the consumer. Right. We are just creating where the attention is. As Gary Vee always says, attention is the number one asset. We are creating because we are unbiased. We understand where the landscape is. And to that very point, a year from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now, the landscape could look totally different. And maybe our strategy as a follow-up to that is going to look very, very different. But what we've learned is by being in this space in the now in 2024, we know that short form video is king right now. But in a year from now, I would like to think and hope that we understand enough with what we've done over the last 3 years to be able to make that quick adaptation and that quick pivot to whatever that new thing is. Maybe it's artificial intelligence, heavy.
You don't need me anymore. You can make the recipes without me.
Right, exactly. So, but you just never know. And I think, it takes being unbiased and knowing where the attention is to really know where you're supposed to go. And that's probably the biggest takeaway from the influencers.
I mean, that gave me a lot of comfort when about 6 months ago they were talking about maybe banning TikTok from the United States for whatever reasons they had. And it really didn't scare me at all because deep down inside, having Gary in the back of my head say, it doesn't matter. That attention is going to go somewhere. You just have to move your efforts to where that attention is going to go. And we felt strongly, we had that conversation that there's just going to be more traction on YouTube, more attention on Instagram and Facebook Reels, and whatever other platform is going to kind of fill the void of TikTok. And I mean, people were shocked when I said it didn't matter to me. They thought like that was going to like ruin my world if TikTok went away. But honestly, just having the insight of that attention has to go somewhere, and we'll just go where that attention goes.
Marketers before social media put a heavy emphasis on TV commercials. Marketers before TV commercials put a heavy emphasis on radio. It's just going to keep iterating itself, and I would like to hope and think that we will be at the forefront and we'll be able to quickly pivot to whatever that next thing is.
Right. So if someone is really new to the space and they want to get started marketing in this digital landscape, what is some advice that you can give someone as they're just getting started?
Yeah, good question. It's funny. Someone just asked me about this like a week or two ago. If you're looking to get into marketing, by the way, I by no means know everything in the marketing space. I am constantly a sponge, and I'm always growing. I really only what I can go off of is my experience and what I know. So this is, of course, from my anecdotal perspective here, but I would recommend trying to join a creative team, whether you have some video editing experience, you've maybe started your own social media and you want to get into posting social media for other brands and organizations. And, if you have some sort of skill set that can work within marketing, within the digital landscape, your website, your maybe coding and programming, your video editing, your social media posting, I definitely recommend trying to join a creative team that can allow those skill sets to flourish for you. And from there, if you're wanting to continue to move up, then I recommend really kind of sitting with understanding what the company is needing and sort of what angles it's needing to take within branding. And from there, you'll really need to understand just all the different facets that make a good marketing program and a good marketing strategy. But I think the first step would be sort of joining that creative team, or even starting up as a freelancer, offering services on various marketplaces online that you can go through. Trying to think of the name of one, Upwork maybe. There's a couple different ones. I'm blanking on the names, but sort of getting that initial experience on a creative team or as a freelancer. And if you're wanting to continue moving up, then start to understand the different components that make up a solid marketing strategy.
Yeah, I think that speaks, you could really pick the industry, it doesn't have to be marketing, but going to work someplace where you feel like you'll fit in and you see the vision of what that company's doing, something, if you're striving to do something, ultimately, if you want to be in business for yourself, go work for a business that you want to run, and be a sponge as much as you can to shorten the learning curve, because that's something that I like to talk about, is how much we've learned over the last 15 years in the business world, not just but in marketing, but on the operational side of the hospitality industry. And if you go talk to someone like me, or Darren Worth from Iowa Smoky D's, or somebody that has been in the weeds and running these operations, you can learn a lot and kind of shortcut some of the mistakes that we've made, because we've made a ton of mistakes and we've learned so much over the years in all facets of the business, not just in, how to cook the brisket, but also how to market it and how to run your P&Ls and how to charge properly for it. So no matter what business you're looking to go into, you can go work somewhere that's similar to that, at least in your mind, and try to figure out how you can be an asset to that business and just learn as much as you can along the way.
And by the way, I empathize with any sort of prospect, candidates looking to get into the space, because so many companies nowadays say, oh, we need 5 years of experience. Well, I need to get my experience somewhere. So it's, it gets tricky for a lot of the newer individuals looking to get started in their career. That's where, similar to what you're saying, like, get out there, figure out who you can work for. Maybe it's not totally in line with what you're currently passionate about, but maybe it's adjacent to it, and it can be a good stepping stone for you to eventually get to where you want to be with regard to your career and what you're passionate about and what sort of fills your cup with what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, even for you, it's not like you were like super passionate about barbecue, and you didn't even we didn't even know what the exact plan was going to be when we hired you. We just fell into the barbecue show to really build brand awareness. And like you mentioned earlier in the conversation, we didn't know what kind of beast we were building, and that's why we're ready to pivot, like we talked about, and kind of change directions slightly, still keeping our foot on the gas from a content creation point of view, but really dialing in how we're going to have more conversion for Sweet Baby Ray's catering, and then if that works, being able to use that for True Cuisine and Duce's Wild as well. Right.
And it's those challenges that really excite me personally and keep me really motivated, is trying to figure out, I've always prided myself. I pride myself on being very analytical and meticulous and thorough with everything that I do. So having this unique challenge within this organization really fuels me to, it gets me excited, it gets me out of bed and looking forward to my day to sort of solve these problems. So again, anybody looking to join a company, find what you get excited about too, and see if that can kind of blend in and work well with sort of the overall plans that the business maybe has as well. So
cool. Well, Matt, thank you for taking the time and coming on the podcast.
Of course, yeah. It's like I said at the beginning, it's a different vibe, right? I'm usually on here as a producer, but it's cool to sit down and talk strategy and marketing and a little bit about myself as well. So I appreciate it, Duce.
Well, you'll be back in the producer seat on Friday because we have Susie Bullock from Hey Grill Hey coming on, so that's exciting.
Yes, that'll be a fun one.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Matt. We'll talk to you soon.
Alrighty. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.